My name is Robin, and I am 62 years old. 3 years ago, I buried my husband Harold after 40 years of marriage. When my daughter Megan invited me to sell my house and move in with her family, I thought it was a blessing. I gave them $100,000 toward their mortgage. I helped with the grandchildren. I cooked and cleaned. Then one evening, my son in law asked me to sign a loan for $500,000. When I said no, my own daughter looked me in the eye and said, "Then do not expect to stay here long." Before I tell you what happened when I walked out that door with nothing but a suitcase and my dignity, let me know where you are watching from today. Hit that subscribe button and stay with me because what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about family and about myself. Let me take you back to the beginning so you can understand how I ended up in that impossible situation. My husband Harold and I met in 1982 at a county fair in Sacramento. He was 23, working as an apprentice electrician. I was 20, just starting nursing school. He bought me a corn dog and asked if he could see me again. I said yes, and that was the beginning of everything. We got married the following spring in a small ceremony at my parents' backyard. Nothing fancy, just family and a few close friends. Harold wore a suit borrowed from his brother. I wore my mother's wedding dress altered to fit me. We did not have much money, but we had each other, and back then that felt like enough. Harold became a licensed electrician and eventually started his own small business. I finished nursing school and got a job at Mercy General Hospital. For 35 years, I worked the floors, mostly in the cardiac unit. Long shifts, tired feet, but I loved my patients. I loved feeling useful. We bought our first house in 1985. A little 3-bedroom place on Maple Street with a big backyard and a lemon tree. That house saw everything: birthday parties, Christmas mornings, Megan taking her first steps in the living room, Harold teaching her to ride a bike on the driveway. 40 years of memories soaked into those walls. Megan was our only child. We tried for more, but it was not meant to be. So we poured everything into her: dance lessons, summer camps, college tuition. When she graduated from Sacramento State with a degree in accounting, Harold and I sat in that auditorium crying like babies. We were so proud. She met Derek at her first job. He was a sales rep at a car dealership, charming and confident. They dated for 2 years before getting engaged. Harold never said much about Derek, but I could tell he had reservations. One night, after Derek left our house, Harold sat in his recliner and said, "There is something off about that man Robin. I cannot put my finger on it, but something is not right." I told him he was being overprotective. Megan was happy, and that was what mattered. Looking back now, I wish I had listened more carefully. They got married in 2012. Big wedding. 300 guests, everything Megan dreamed of. Harold and I paid for most of it. That was fine. Parents do that for their children. Then came the grandchildren. Tyler was born in 2014, Sophie in 2017. Those kids became the center of my universe. Every birthday, every school play, every soccer game. I was there. Being a grandmother gave me a purpose I did not even know I was missing. When Harold had his stroke in 2021, my world collapsed. He was in the hospital for 3 weeks before he passed. I held his hand until the very end. The house on Maple Street suddenly felt enormous and empty. Every room echoed with his absence. I tried to manage alone for 2 years, but the loneliness was crushing. Some nights I would sit at the kitchen table and talk to Harold's photograph just to hear a voice in the house. My friends worried about me. My doctor suggested I consider other living arrangements. Then Megan came to me with an idea. "Mom, why are you rattling around in that big house by yourself? Sell it and come live with us. We have plenty of room. The kids would love having you there." At first, I hesitated. I did not want to be a burden, but Megan insisted. Derek seemed supportive too, smiling and nodding along. "We would love to have you, Mom," he said. "You are family." So I made the decision. I put the house on Maple Street up for sale. The market was good, and it sold quickly for $350,000. Combined with my retirement savings and pension, I had about $450,000. Enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life, I thought. Megan mentioned they were struggling a bit with their mortgage. Without thinking twice, I offered to help. $100,000 to pay down their loan. I did not ask for paperwork. I did not ask for a promissory note. It was my daughter. I trusted her completely. I moved into the guest room on the first floor. It was nice, spacious, with its own bathroom. I brought my favorite furniture, my photographs Harold's recliner. I tried to make it feel like home. The first few months were wonderful. I helped get Tyler and Sophie ready for school in the mornings. I packed their lunches, drove them to soccer practice, helped with homework. In the afternoons, I would cook dinner so Megan did not have to worry about it after work. I cleaned, did laundry, tended the garden. I wanted to contribute to earn my place. Megan worked long hours at an insurance company downtown. She was a senior accountant, always stressed, always tired. Derek worked at the car dealership, but his hours were unpredictable. He claimed he had client meetings in the evening, sometimes not coming home until 9 or 10 at night. I did not question it. I was just happy to be near my grandchildren to feel useful again. After 2 years of loneliness, this felt like heaven. But looking back, I can see the signs I missed. Derek asking about my finances, the way his eyes would light up when money was mentioned, the whispered conversations between him and Megan that would stop when I entered the room. I was so grateful to be there that I ignored my instincts. Harold would have seen it. Harold always saw things I missed. The first crack appeared about 6 months after I moved in. It started with small things. Derek began asking questions about my savings. Not obvious questions, but casual ones dropped into conversation. "So, Mom, you must have done pretty well selling that house, huh?" Or, "I bet nurses have good pension plans, right?" At first, I thought he was just making conversation. But the questions kept coming. How much did I have in my retirement account? Had I considered investing? Did I know about this great opportunity he had heard about? I gave vague answers. I was not comfortable discussing my finances with him. There was something in his tone that felt predatory, though I would not have used that word at the time. Then Derek started talking about his big dream. He wanted to open his own car dealership. He had been selling cars for almost 20 years, he said. He knew the business inside and out. All he needed was the capital to get started. One evening after dinner, he brought it up more formally. "I have found the perfect location," he said, spreading papers across the kitchen table. "It is over on Madison Avenue near the freeway. Great visibility, tons of traffic. This is my chance to finally be my own boss." I looked at the papers. Projections, charts, numbers. It looked impressive on the surface, but something did not sit right with me. "The car market is struggling right now," I said carefully. "I have read about dealerships closing down." Derek waved his hand dismissively. "That is the big corporate places. A small, independent dealership is different. Personal service, community connections. That is what people want." Megan nodded enthusiastically beside him. "Derek has been planning this for years, Mom. This is his dream." I wanted to be supportive. I really did. But the location he mentioned was in a part of town that was not exactly booming. And something about the way Derek talked about it, the grandiosity, the certainty, reminded me of other men I had known who were always chasing the next big thing. A week later, the real conversation happened. We were sitting in the living room after the kids had gone to bed. Derek cleared his throat and said he needed to discuss something important. "I have been to the bank," he said. "They are willing to give me a loan for $500,000. That would cover the property inventory, everything I need to get started." "That is wonderful," I said, not understanding where this was going. "There is just one thing." Derek leaned forward. "They need a co-signer, someone with assets to guarantee the loan." My stomach dropped. I knew where this was heading. "I was hoping you would consider co-signing for me, Mom." He smiled that charming smile that had won over my daughter. "It is just a formality, really. Nothing will happen. The business is going to be a huge success." I sat there in silence, my mind racing. $500,000. That was more than I had in total. If Derek defaulted on this loan, I would lose everything. My savings, my security, my independence. "I need time to think about it," I said finally. Derek's smile flickered. Just for a second, I saw something else underneath. Frustration, annoyance. Then the mask was back. "Of course, Mom. Take all the time you need." But his eyes told a different story. Over the next few days, I did my research. I called my friend Margaret, whose husband had owned a small business for 30 years. "That location is terrible for a dealership," she said without hesitation. "There is no foot traffic, no visibility from the main road. Whoever told him that was a good spot does not know what they are talking about." I searched online for information about Derek's history. I discovered things Megan had never told me. Derek had tried to start a business before some kind of auto repair shop, and it had failed within 2 years. He had significant credit card debt. His credit score was poor, which explained why the bank needed a cosigner in the first place. The more I learned, the more alarmed I became. This was not a smart investment. This was a gamble. And Derek wanted to gamble with my money, with my future. I realized then that I had been blind. Derek had not invited me into their home out of love. He had seen me as an opportunity. I knew I had to tell them my decision, and I knew it was not going to go well. I chose a Tuesday evening. The kids were at their grandparents' on Derek's side for the night. It would just be the three of us. I did not want Tyler and Sophie to witness whatever was about to happen. I cooked dinner that night: roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, Derek's favorites. Maybe I was trying to soften the blow. Maybe I was just delaying the inevitable. After we finished eating, I took a deep breath and said, "I have made a decision about the loan." Derek sat up straighter, a smile already forming on his face. He was so confident I would say yes. "I am sorry, but I cannot co-sign for you," I said. "The risk is too high. If something goes wrong, I would lose everything I have worked my entire life for." The smile vanished from Derek's face like someone had flipped a switch. "What do you mean, you cannot?" His voice was sharp. "We are talking about my future here, Mom." "I understand that," I said, keeping my voice calm. "And I want to support you. I would be willing to give you a smaller loan, something I could afford to lose if things did not work out. But I cannot put my entire savings at risk." Derek's face turned red. He stood up from the table, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I knew it," he said. "I knew you never liked me. You have been looking for an excuse to say no since the day we met." "That is not true, Derek. This is about finances, not feelings." "Finances?" He laughed bitterly. "You have hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting in the bank doing nothing. Nothing, and you cannot help your own family." "That money is my security," I said. "It is what I have to live on for the rest of my life. I cannot afford to lose it on a risky business venture." Derek stepped toward me, not threateningly, but close enough to make me uncomfortable. "We let you live here," he said, his voice low and hard. "We took you in when you had nowhere else to go. We feed you, house you, and this is how you repay us." I felt like I had been slapped. "Let me live here. Derek, I gave you $100,000 toward your mortgage. I cook, I clean, I take care of your children. I am not a charity case." "That was a gift," he shot back. "You do not get to hold that over our heads." I turned to Megan, desperate for her to intervene, to defend me, to say something reasonable. But Megan would not meet my eyes. She sat at the table staring at her plate, her jaw tight. "Megan," I said softly, "please, you understand. Do not you—" Finally she looked up, and the coldness in her eyes made my blood freeze. "Mom, Derek is right. You are being selfish." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Selfish," I whispered. "Megan, I am your mother. I am trying to protect myself. I am trying to protect you too. This business plan is not sound." "Protect?" Megan's voice rose. "You are just thinking about yourself. You always have." I could not believe what I was hearing. This was my daughter, the child I had nursed through fevers and heartbreaks, the girl I had worked double shifts to put through college, the woman I had given $100,000 to without a second thought. And she was calling me selfish. "Megan, I love you," I said, my voice trembling. "But I will not sign this loan. I cannot." Megan stood up then. She looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. Contempt. Pure contempt. "Then do not expect to stay here long," she said, and she walked out of the room. I sat alone at that kitchen table for what felt like hours. The dishes grew cold. The house was silent except for the ticking of the clock on the wall. I thought about Harold. What would he say if he could see this? What would he do? I knew the answer. He would tell me to stand my ground. He would tell me I was right. But being right did not make it hurt any less. I went to my room and closed the door. I pulled out the photograph of Harold that I kept on my nightstand and held it to my chest. "What do I do now?" I asked him. "What do I do?" The next few days were unbearable. Derek and Megan barely spoke to me. When they did, it was in clipped cold tones. Necessary communication only. "Pass the salt. The kids need to be picked up at 3. The warmth was gone from the house. I felt like a stranger, an intruder in a place where I had given so much. Tyler and Sophie sensed something was wrong. "Grandma, are you okay?" Sophie asked one morning, her little face worried. "You look sad." "I am fine, sweetheart," I lied. "Just tired." But I was not fine. I was heartbroken. On the third day of that cold silence, I woke up early. The sun was just coming up, pale light filtering through my curtains. I lay in bed and thought about my situation. I was living in a house where I was clearly not wanted. My daughter had told me not to expect to stay. My son-in-law looked at me with barely concealed hostility. I could stay and fight for my place. But what kind of life would that be? Begging for scraps of affection from people who saw me as nothing more than a bank account. No, I had more dignity than that. Harold had raised me better than that. I made my decision. I would leave. Not because they were kicking me out, but because I chose to go. On my own terms. I got out of bed and started packing. 2 suitcases, that was all I would take. Clothes, toiletries, a few photographs, Harold's watch, a small painting that my mother had given me years ago. Everything else, all the furniture I had brought, could stay. I did not want any excuse for them to contact me, any reason to prolong the connection. I called my friend Linda. We had known each other since nursing school, 40 years of friendship. She lived alone in Roseville, about 20 minutes away. When I told her what had happened, she did not hesitate. "Come stay with me," she said immediately. "Stay as long as you need. That is what friends are for." I finished packing and sat down to write a letter. I did not want to leave without saying something, but I also did not want a confrontation. "Dear Megan," I wrote, "I love you. I always will. But I cannot stay where I am not wanted. I hope one day you will understand. Love, Mom." I left the letter on the kitchen table, propped up against the fruit bowl where she would see it. Then I called a taxi. Standing at the front door with my 2 suitcases, I looked back at the house one more time. This was supposed to be my home for my remaining years. This was where I was going to watch my grandchildren grow up, where I was going to grow old, surrounded by family. Instead, I was leaving with less than I had arrived with. Not in money, but in faith, in trust, in the belief that family would always be there for you. The taxi pulled up. The driver, a young man with kind eyes, helped me with my bags. "Where to, ma'am?" he asked. I gave him Linda's address. As we drove away, I did not look back. I could not. The tears came, then silently streaming down my face. The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror, but did not say anything. He just handed me a box of tissues from the front seat. "Thank you," I whispered. "Rough day?" he asked gently. "Rough life lately," I said. He nodded. "It gets better. Whatever it is, it gets better." I wanted to believe him. I really did. Linda was waiting for me at her door. The moment I saw her, I broke down completely. She held me while I sobbed, all the pain and betrayal pouring out. "It is going to be okay," she said, stroking my hair. "You are safe now. You are with friends." Her apartment was small but cozy. She had a spare bedroom that she used as a craft room, but she cleared it out for me. "Stay as long as you need," she said again. I mean it. Those first days were hard. I barely ate. I could not sleep more than a few hours at a time. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Megan's face, heard her cold words. I kept checking my phone, hoping she would call, hoping she would apologize, hoping she would say it had all been a terrible mistake. But there was nothing. No calls, no texts, no emails. Complete silence. It was as if I had ceased to exist. I thought about Tyler and Sophie constantly. Were they asking about me? Did they know I was gone? What had Megan told them? The not knowing was almost worse than the rejection itself. Linda was patient with me. She made me tea-cooked meals I barely touched, sat with me when I needed company, and left me alone when I needed space. She did not push me to talk or to make decisions. She just let me grieve, because that is what it was. Grief. I was mourning my daughter even though she was still alive. I was mourning the relationship I thought we had, the future I thought we would share. After 2 weeks, something shifted inside me. I woke up one morning and felt different. Not better exactly, but clearer. The fog of despair had lifted just enough for me to think. I could not stay at Linda's forever. It was not fair to her, and it was not what I wanted for myself. I needed my own space, my own life, I still had money. That was the one thing I had protected by saying no to Derek. I had my savings, my pension. I could afford to live independently. It was time to stop being a victim and start being a survivor. I began looking for an apartment the next day. I knew what I wanted. Something small, manageable, in a safe neighborhood with good amenities nearby. I was not looking for luxury, just comfort and security. After viewing several places, I found it. A one-bedroom apartment in Folsom, about 30 minutes from Linda's play. It was on the second floor of a quiet complex with a small balcony overlooking a courtyard garden. The rent was reasonable, and the building had a community center with activities for seniors. I signed the lease that same week. Moving in felt strange. For 40 years, I had lived in houses, family homes filled with the noise and chaos of life. Now I was alone in 700 square feet surrounded by boxes. But as I unpacked, something unexpected happened. I started to feel a sense of peace. This was mine. Every decision about this space was mine to make. Where to put the couch, what color curtains to hang, whether to have cereal for dinner or cook a proper meal. I hung Harold's photograph above my bed. I put pictures of Tyler and Sophie on the bookshelf, even though looking at them made my heart ache. I bought plants for the balcony, bright flowers that made me smile when I watered them. Slowly, I began to build a routine. Morning walks in the park nearby. Coffee at the little cafe around the corner. Yoga classes at the community center on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I met Dorothy there at the yoga class. She was 70 years old, widowed 5 years, with 2 grown children who lived on the East Coast. We clicked immediately. Same sense of humor, same outlook on life. You know what the secret is? She told me one day over lunch. Stop waiting for happiness to come to you. Go out and grab it by the throat. I laughed. It was the first real laugh I had had in weeks. Dorothy introduced me to the volunteer program at the hospital. They needed people to spend time with elderly patients, reading to them, talking with them, just keeping them company. Given my nursing background, it was a perfect fit. I started going twice a week. It felt good to be useful again, to feel like I was contributing something. The patients appreciated the company, and I appreciated the purpose. I joined a painting class, something I had always wanted to try but never had time for. I was terrible at first, my landscapes looking more like mud puddles than meadows. But it did not matter. I was doing something for myself just because I enjoyed it. My world was expanding in ways I had not expected. New friends, new activities, new reasons to get up in the morning. And then about a month after I moved out, I got the news. Linda called me excited. Her friend worked at the bank where Derek had applied for his loan. They turned him down, she said. Flat out rejected. His credit is too bad, and without a qualified co-signer, they would not touch him. I sat down heavily on my couch. I was not happy exactly. There was no joy in Derek's failure, but there was relief. Deep, profound relief. I had been right to say no. If I had signed that loan, I would be tied to a failing business, watching my savings drain away. Instead, I was sitting in my own apartment, financially secure, building a new life. I thought about Megan. How was she handling this? Was she angry? Disappointed. Did she understand now that I had been right? 2 months passed. I had settled into my new life, found a rhythm that worked for me. Then one evening my phone rang. I looked at the screen and my heart stopped. It was Megan. I stared at the phone for several rings, not sure if I should answer. Part of me wanted to let it go to voicemail, but curiosity won. Hello, Mom. Her voice was small, uncertain. Nothing like the cold, contemptuous tone I remembered. Hello, Megan. Silence stretched between us. I could hear her breathing, could almost feel her struggling to find words. Mom, I am sorry. The words came out in a rush. I am so sorry for what I said, for how I treated you. I was wrong. I said nothing. I just listened. The loan fell through, she continued. Derek's been impossible ever since. Angry all the time, drinking more than he should. We have been fighting constantly. I am sorry to hear that, I said carefully. Mom, I should have listened to you. You were right about the business plan. You were right about everything. More silence. Derek, she hesitated. He has not been honest with me about a lot of things, his credit card debt, his past business failures. I did not know any of it until the bank told us. He kept things from you. He kept a lot of things from me. Her voice cracked. Mom, we are in trouble. Real trouble. We might lose the house. I closed my eyes. My grandchildren, Tyler and Sophie, they did not deserve this. What do you want from me, Megan? I asked quietly. She started crying then. I want you to come back, Mom. Please. The kids miss you so much. I miss you. Do you miss me? Or do you miss what I can do for you? The question hung in the air, harsh but necessary. I deserve that, she said through her tears. I know I deserve that, but I swear, Mom, it is not just about money. I was wrong to treat you the way I did. I was wrong to choose Derek over you. I let her cry. I did not comfort her, not yet. I need time to think, I said finally. Please, Mom. Please just think about it. I will. I hung up and sat in the darkness of my living room for a long time. A week later, I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral territory. She looked terrible. Thin, pale, dark circles under her eyes. When she saw me, she started crying again. Thank you for coming, she said. We sat across from each other, two women who used to be so close, now separated by hurt and betrayal. Tell me everything, I said, and she did. The full extent of their financial problems, Derek's debts that she had not known about, the threatening letters from creditors, the sleepless nights and endless arguments. He blames everyone else, she said. The bank, the economy, you. He never takes responsibility for anything. And what about you? I asked. You stood by him when he attacked me. You told me I was selfish. I know. She reached across the table to take my hand. I let her, though I did not squeeze back. I was so caught up in his dream, in wanting to believe him. I did not see what was right in front of me. I did not see how wrong I was. That hurt me more than anything Derek said. I told her honestly. You were my daughter, my only child, and you looked at me like I was nothing. I know, Mom, and I have to live with that for the rest of my life. We talked for 2 hours. About the past, about the present, about what might come next. By the end, something had shifted between us. Not forgiveness, not yet, but the beginning of something. A crack in the wall that had built up between us. I am not coming back to live with you, I said finally. I have my own place now, my own life, and honestly, I am happy. I understand, she said, though her face fell, but that does not mean I am abandoning you. I made a decision, but on my own terms. I would not move back in with Megan. That part of my life was over. I had worked too hard to build my independence to give it up now. But I also could not abandon my daughter completely. Despite everything, she was still my child. And more importantly, Tyler and Sophie were innocent in all of this. I offered Megan a loan, $30,000 to help them get through the immediate crisis. But this time, there were conditions. This is not a gift, I said firmly. This is a loan, and I want it in writing. You will pay me back with interest over the next 5 years. Megan nodded, tears in her eyes. And there is another condition. You and Derek need to go to marriage counseling. If you want my help, you need to fix what is broken in your relationship first. I will not keep throwing money at a sinking ship. We will, she promised. I will make sure of it. Derek called me a few days later. His voice was subdued, nothing like the arrogant man who had demanded I sign his loan. I owe you an apology, he said. I was wrong to pressure you. Wrong to say the things I said. Yes, you were. I let my ambition get the better of me. I saw your money as the answer to all my problems, and I did not stop to think about what I was asking you to risk. I listened without interrupting. I understand if you never forgive me, he continued, but I want you to know that I am going to try to be better. For Megan. For the kids. Trust is earned, Derek, I said. Not given. If you want my trust, you are going to have to work for it. I know, and I will. Time would tell if he meant it, but for now, it was enough that he had said it. I went to visit the children the following weekend. When Tyler and Sophie saw me, they ran into my arms, nearly knocking me over. Grandma, where did you go? We missed you so much. I held them tight, breathing in the smell of their hair, feeling their little hearts beating against mine. Grandma had to find her own home, I said, but I am always here for you. Always. We spent the afternoon together playing games, making cookies, just being a family again. It was not like before. I went home to my own apartment that evening. But it was something. It was a start. My relationship with Megan slowly began to heal. Not the way it was before, perhaps, There were scars now, things that could not be unsaid or undone. But we were trying. We had dinner together once a week. I took the kids on weekends sometimes, giving Megan and Derek time to work on their marriage. The counseling seemed to be helping. Derek was drinking less, coming home earlier. He even got a second job on weekends to help pay down their debts. I kept my own life too. My apartment, my friends, my volunteer work. I did not give up my independence just because things were improving with my daughter. I had learned that lesson too well. 3 years have passed since that terrible night when Megan told me not to expect to stay. I am 65 now, still healthy, still active. I painted a landscape last week that actually looks like a landscape, which feels like a major accomplishment. Jack, my grandson Tyler, is 13 now, all arms and legs and attitude. Sophie is 10, sweet and thoughtful with Harold's eyes. They come to stay with me one weekend a month, and those days are the highlights of my life. Megan and I have found a new balance. We talk on the phone several times a week. She tells me about her work, her struggles, her small victories. I listen, offer advice when asked, and keep my opinions to myself when not. Derek has changed, or at least he seems to have. He never did open that car dealership. Instead, he worked his way up at the current dealership and is now the sales manager. The stable income has helped them get back on their feet. They have paid back half of the loan I gave them right on schedule. I do not live with them, and I never will. That chapter is closed. But we are family again in a different way. A healthier way, I think. I learned a lot from that experience. Hard lessons painfully earned. First, I learned that money and family are a dangerous combination. Never give what you cannot afford to lose, and always, always get it in writing. Love does not protect you from financial ruin. Second, I learned that loving someone does not mean accepting mistreatment. You can love your children and still demand respect. You can forgive and still maintain boundaries. Third, I learned that famgia dignity is worth more than comfort. I could have stayed in that house, endured the cold looks and cruel words just to avoid being alone. But I chose to leave, and that choice saved me. Fourth, I learned that it is never too late to start over. At 62, I thought my life was basically finished, that everything that mattered had already happened. I was wrong. Some of the best parts of my life happened after I walked out that door. Looking back, I almost want to thank Derek for pushing me to that breaking point. Almost. Because if he had not, I might still be there shrinking myself to fit into a space where I was not valued. Instead, I found my own space, my own life, my own joy. I still talk to Harold sometimes at night before I go to sleep. I tell him about my day, about the grandchildren, about the painting I'm working on. I like to think he can hear me somehow. I did okay, Harold, I tell him. I did what you would have wanted. I stood my ground. And in the silence that follows, I could swear I hear him say, I knew you would, Robin. I always knew you would. If you are watching this and you are in a situation where your family is treating you like a burden, where your generosity is being taken advantage of, where your worth is measured only by what you can give, I want you to know something. You are not a burden. You are a person with value, with dignity, with the right to be respected. Your money does not define your worth. Your usefulness does not define your place in the family. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love us the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. And when that happens, we have a choice. We can stay and shrink, or we can leave and grow. I chose to grow, and I have never been happier. So here is my question for you. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who were trying to take advantage of you? How did you handle it? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you have not already hit that subscribe button so you do not miss more stories like this one, thank you for spending this time with me today. Whatever struggles you are facing, I hope you find the strength to choose yourself, to choose dignity, to choose peace. Take care of yourselves, and remember, it is never too late to start over.